Hello, my name is Rodrigo, and I am a clinical psychology grad student. A little bit more about me is that I have been listening to ASMR for almost a decade now, so I'm really excited to finally be doing my first soft spoken video. Also, I wanted to share that my mom is a yoga instructor, so I get a lot of inspiration from her to be like calm and mindful. That's something I've been working really hard on, and I hope you all can be in this journey with me to become more mindful, learn more about psychology, and just improve in general as a person and become a more calm person as well. So, what I wanted to do today is just read a little bit of my psychology textbook. We're using it for a class right now, and there's one chapter on cognitive behavioral therapy, and that is my favorite modality of psychotherapy. So I wanted to share a little bit more about that. And it's gonna be just some stories, some people that have gone through therapy, and how that interaction works. And if you're not interested in that, you can just, it's gonna try to be relaxing, but I am gonna be mentioning things like depression, maybe some anxieties, nothing in too much detail. It's just like little stories and interactions, they are very positive stories, but I just wanted to say. And so look, here is the book. It's a good book. It's a very good book. I had to check on the side because that's where my camera is. Not my camera, but my laptop. I'm trying to make no sudden or loud sounds, because I hate that in ASMR when there's a sudden loud sound. It just frightens me. That startles me. Sorry, that's not a good thing. So don't worry about that. Let me start reading this passage of. It's a psychotherapy client that is writing this message to his previous therapist. And it says, one second. Let me move the mic back a little bit. I never thought I would like myself again, wrote Ross to her psychotherapist. When I got into that deep pit of depression, I didn't think I could find my way out. Everywhere I turned, I saw darkness and dislike. My hair wasn't right. My clothes weren't right. My voice was too high. My height was too low. Oh God, was it awful. I couldn't escape from this self I couldn't stand. I'm afraid I can't understand why someone could kill themselves in such a state. Who said hell is other people? In that place, hell is yourself, and there seems to be no escape. The future is downhill, the past I messed up. I swear it's gonna get better. It's just a rough start, setting the mood. It's still hard to believe I talked myself into that dark dungeon. Everywhere I turned, I saw negative stuff. The old wine bottle wasn't just half empty. To me, there wasn't a drop left. It's amazing what your mind can do to you. I really appreciate how you helped me find my way through my mental maze. It became fun trying to discover what I was telling myself to keep me down. Yes, it was depressing to have been divorced, but I couldn't focus on positive facts of still having my friends, my children, my writing, and my future. In the future, I was constructing in my mind the sun was never going to shine again. Thanks for helping me to use my writing as homework to straighten out my own thinking. Before I came to see you, my writing sounded like Sylvia Plath, all dark and despair. It's not that there's not a dark side of life, it's just that if all I think about is the dark side, then life becomes empty rather than full. One of the most helpful things about the work we did together is that I learned how to correct my own maladaptive cognitions. I learned how to search and destroy the automatic self-statement that said I was bad, situations were bad, the future was bleak, my biology was breaking down. As a writer, I appreciate how powerful words can be, but I never knew how we can create our own novel in our heads and then cast ourselves as the tragic characters destined to self-destruct. Just wanted to let you know that the new novel I'm writing in my mind is so much happier. It's not that everything is perfect. I still don't like my hair, but that will probably always be an obsession with me. And I still am searching for a man to make my life more meaningful. I know I should think more independently, but that's how women of my generation were raised to think. So sometimes I would rather change my situation than my thoughts about my situation. But at least I don't let the situations drag me down. Off to see my daughter in San Diego. Hope all is well with you. Ross. One second. So, I love that story, of course, for several different reasons. She just takes you on her journey to what she describes as hell. She describes it as a hell that she put herself through, and then she started realizing the things that she was doing to herself, the negative thoughts that were irrational. Because of course we're gonna have negative thoughts, some are rational, but in her case, and in most people's case, the majority of those negative thoughts are grounded in irrational things. So by being able to notice where that thought is irrational and the fault in our thinking, those thoughts just dissipate, they just vanish, because then they have nothing to be grounded on. If you take away the irrationality of so many negative thoughts, again, they vanish, and it's like a weight being lifted, and then you can think more clearly. So that's her story, her getting better at pinpointing those irrational negative thoughts, and I think that's a great story. Let me just read one more thing real quick. I hope you like page turning. Here is the last example. It says, consider the example of a depressed student who believed she would not gain admission into any of the competitive PhD programs to which she was applying. In the cognitive tradition, ITCN, which is John Norcross. By the way, the other author's last name is Prochaska. So it said, I gently but persistently questioned the reasoning that led to her distressed feeling. Now it's the interaction between the therapist and the client. It says, therapist, you applied to 12 doctoral programs, all within your range of credentials. Patient, yes, that's right, but my GRE scores and grades were not as high as some of the students accepted last year. Therapist, how did your scores and grades compare to the typical student admitted in recent years? Patient, well, I'm in the middle and higher. Therapist, and so the evidence suggests, patient, that I am competitive, but not the highest. Therapist, yes, I see. Better than most PhD students admitted, but not at the very top. In a typical year, your numbers would indicate what would happen to your application. Patient, that I would be given serious consideration and probably accepted. Therapist, smiling, that sounds about right. What then accounts for your distress? I'll stop saying patient, therapist, I think it's pretty obvious. When I lose my thinking and I think the worst. When you catastrophize, you feel depressed and mope around. When you catch yourself, as you just did here, and think realistically, then you feel and behave how? I feel confident and behave like myself. And if the worst happened and you did not get into a PhD program this year, what would happen? Well, nothing terrible. I would get a job that would prepare me better for graduate school for a year and then reapply next year. A fine contingency plan. Does that sound so awful as to leave you feeling depressed? Patient, smiling. I guess not. It's mind over mood. The title of a cognitive therapy self-help book she was reading. student was not deliberately trying to thwart me, but had reached a negative and erroneous conclusion regarding her chances of admission. Her reasoning can be seen as an example of dichotomous or all or nothing thinking, in that any entrance examination scores or college grades less than the best were viewed as a failure. She had elevated the possibility of rejection into the certainty of catastrophe. I think that is an awesome example of how easily and quickly we can give into irrational negative thoughts. They just come so quickly, and sometimes it's really hard to catch them. So my, let's say, call to action would be start paying closer attention to those negative thoughts. Pass them through a filter. Try to see how rational they really are. And most likely you will find out that a lot of them and a lot of the things that are weighing you down are not grounded in rational things. So yeah, I hope you can give that a try, and you can let me know, of course, how that goes. And now I should probably finish and end my first video here. Yeah, just full of ideas of what I could do, and I'm again very excited to be here, and I hope I see you all later. Goodbye, and I hope you have a very relaxing and good